Truth Bombers Podcast.
Truth Bombers Podcast.
The group chat turned podcast with your hosts, Russ, Lockie, and BJ.
Beanie on.
Yep. Gotta keep those ears warm.
Shouting at the fucking TV screen doesn't get you hot enough.
You shouting in my ear doesn't help.
Russell,
What?
how are you?
Russ, how are we?
Good. I'm good.
Mate, another week down, another week with no mint maxi bonds.
Maybe Wednesday.
All right, sounds good. Don't let us down. Don't let us down like our football club.
Yeah. If you can't win against the bottom, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I was thinking about what we're going to say for this podcast. How do you go from winning to losing to the bottom and have be positive?
Locke, do you want to kick us off with 3 words? Is it "we are shit"? Because if it is, I already got that.
3 words. I expected this.
Yeah, we called it.
Yeah, never
I
in
did tip
doubt.
West Coast.
Never in doubt.
You know what? I'm going to change my word. I'm going to change my 3 words. I blame Lockie because we watched the game together and he was trying to get his positive energy. He's trying to get his fucking multi up. He didn't tip the Bombers for the first time this season. I did. And I blame you, Lockie. Enough said.
Was it Anzac Day where you both tipped Collingwood and I was the only sucker to tip Essendon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what about that, Russ? Just evening it up.
No, I still blame you.
All right, let's get into it, boys. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I actually watched most of it back today, and I watched the KO again. It actually was, in my opinion anyway, quite a few goods. Obviously the result was pretty disappointing, but for me, Stringer, as the first time he's played 3 games in a row this year, and he's definitely been building over the last 3. We're both sort of watching him in the Carlton game, or was watching the Carlton game being like, he fucking looks unfit, like he's come back out of stock, like I think he's done. And the last 2 weeks, or last week, he got better and better, and this week he was around it. He's taken some good set shots from outside 50, played a little bit more in the midfield, so I thought he's definitely in my goods column for this week.
Russ.
No, I agree. He does. He looks like he's putting the work in, and I think that goes into, like, I was happy to see Snell back. I was happy to see Langers back. You know, we can't expect too much from those guys. I think after not playing for most of the season, so for me, they got through the game, which I thought was a good. And you know, in a couple of weeks, I think they're going to get better and better. So for me, I was just happy to see them get through a full game, to be honest, because I don't trust much of our high performance management team. So the fact that they made it through the game, I was pretty stoked with.
Well, have they given us an injury update yet? Do we know if they haven't redone a soft tissue?
Well, you know what? Another one of my goods was that Ham didn't come on the field. I know he's the medi sub, so for me, the good was he didn't play.
There was some talk about whether Ham being involved in our 3 wins for the year, to what level had he been involved in? So if we'd got Nutlock, would you have counted that as another Ham win, even though he didn't actually come on the track?
No, but if he had have participated even for a second, I would have claimed it. I have to agree with the Stringer stuff. I did say after his first game back that he is the sort of player that just needs continuity. He just needs game after game after game, and he almost builds match fitness so much quicker than fitness on the training track. Another good, like, if you only look at the stats and not the scoreline, we won that game. So contested possessions, inside 50s, tackles, stats that would normally be like, hey, like this has meant a good or a bad result for us. We won all those indicators. But then that's
the one indicator that counts is the one we
like we didn't win on the scoreboard, and I think it's an indictment on how we let other teams play and how other teams can cut through us.
I had Peter Wright in there as well. Just the amount of opportunities that he gave himself in the first half. For whatever reason, probably not the best. We've seen him kick for goal. He's had a couple of misses, but he was missing stuff that you'd normally put the house on him to convert. And I think he was 2 goals 2 or something by the first quarter, and then he kicked his 4 goals 3 or something by the end of the second. Now, if he's kicked 7 goals and we go into halftime 40 or 45 points up, like, we win that game. Like, the problem was we gave West Coast half a sniff the whole way through. And then you get that sort of X factor that when you don't capitalize, you leave other teams in it that have got a lot to get the monkeys off the back. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I saw it a lot like the Collingwood game. Like, we've spoken about it as a benchmark. Like, we go back to the Collingwood game. We won that on paper as well, but they kicked straight. I know the final score said that West Coast kicked something like 10 or 12 behinds as well. But, they did kick at one point. They were 13-4, I think. And they were just kicking.
They kicked 10 straight at one stage.
Yeah, Kenny kicked 5 straight. If we had a capital, I think a lot of it came down to they kicked straight early and they kept themselves in the game. Like what Ben has said, if we went into the halftime and we were kicking straight, we would have blown out of the water, and we're out of touch, and they don't come back. So it goes back to us not capitalizing on our opportunities to put teams away when we can.
Yeah, we've done it all year. I'll give you another one. Harry Jones, particularly below his knees. I reckon he's been almost playing like one of our better small forwards than actually as a key target. But he took big mark in the fourth quarter, kicked the second goal in the fourth quarter when we were, looked like we might be mounting a bit of a charge. And that, I think, given his game against Hawthorn last year when he kind of missed a couple of super easy set shots and half the bloody Essendon membership put the loss solely on his shoulders. I think that shows he hasn't played a ton of football, but there is potentially some athletic maturity going on there where he can handle that situation, go back, go through his routine and convert for us. So it was good to see.
Yeah, our forward line actually looks dangerous now with Stringer having a few games back, Harrison Jones having a few games back. Peter Wright doesn't quite cop as much attention if those two guys are firing. There's guys like Guelphy popping up for a couple of goals a game. Nick Martin continues to hit the scoreboard. Perkins kicked 1 goal 3. Like, that could have easily been 3 goals 1. Our forward line does look a lot more damaging the last 2 or 3 weeks. Just got to capitalize.
Yeah, and I think Dylan Shield is back.
7 tackles.
Yeah, led the charge for tackle count, but just and he was our leading possession getter, and we've kind of seen, especially since Parrish has been out of the side, we've been seeing faster gameplay with less disposal. Like, our leading possession getter usually has 43, 44 touches. I think Shield had 27 and Merritt had 26. So other than Lockie's multis, it's a change in play style, but like, it seems to be working for the most part. And there were glimpses of it. There were glimpses of it during the West Coast game. Like, we didn't take advantage of the opportunities, but at least we created them, Yeah. Hopefully the conversion comes in time.
Do you think we would have won if Parrish was in the game?
Who knows? I think we showed last week that we're not Parrish or bust. We just, for whatever reason, this week. Do you think if we had, the big outs, obviously Parrish not in, do you think if McGrath was in, do you think we win? That was one of my talking points for later on. I think this week, what really got exposed is I think he really led the way defensively against even in terms of the way the whole back line structured up. He was very often made himself the last defender back to take the deepest forward, and we got caught out the back much less than we typically do. And so I feel like, given a lot of how far up the ground our backs were getting sucked, that we missed someone either taking the responsibility on themselves to put themselves as the last defender or calling the troops, back into line. So I think
100%.
McGrath, I think, is becoming, we talked about guys that last year were sort of like Snelling. No one outside of the club really knows too much about him, but he's become integral to that selection. I think McGrath, not that he's not unknown, but we've kind of floated him around between halfback, maybe the wing, maybe the midfield. And I thought last week he really put his stamp on the fact that he belongs there in that back six. And I think that, in only a week, I think we definitely missed him.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think if he played the same game style he played against St Kilda and played last week, we win that game comfortably as well. But I don't see Parish being in there changing the game whatsoever. And I kind of like the fact that we're low on possessions and not those 1-2s or, those clearances to nothing. I think, which is interesting when we go into a trade period. It's like, all right, do you leverage someone like Parrish?
Surely not. I think
we just miss it. I honestly don't think we miss him in that midfield if everything's working. Is it nice to have around? Yes.
I think maybe it's more that because he's out, it's forced guys like Hind and Shield to have to get on their bike more, win more of their own ball, work together and go forward. And now I hope the idea is they've had a few games where they're doing that. They realize they can do it, that we look better when they do it. So now it's not Parish or bust, but we have these other 4 or 5 options coming out of the center square.
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
Yeah.
Locke, would you put Parish up for trade bait?
I've thought about this and I'm not sure if it's just loyalty to our players, but I hate the idea of trading one of those guys out. Like you would love to think you can trade for someone using a draft pick, or you can pick up quality players in the draft and that's how you create your team, rather than getting rid of a quality player to hopefully make your team stronger. I like it. It's hard for me to compute that.
It'd be worth a bundle though on the other side.
You want to get players out of him though. It's not someone like you said. I don't want picks out of him. If we were to trade him, it would be like, okay, in a combination deal. It's like I'm going to get a good player plus this and that. It couldn't be just like, I want 2 first-round draft picks for him, because we don't care about that at the moment.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, in terms of that, I think maybe towards season's end, when we've got a better idea of the players that will be up for trade, who haven't signed contracts yet, I think then maybe we can make a more educated guess about what might happen. Because right now it's sort of like who's available. There's no real key backs that I've heard of chat about. There's no real amazing key forwards that are up for grabs. There's no real amazing mids, unless you're getting someone out that's in contract. I haven't really heard about too much excitement.
He's still got another year on his contract anyway, but I don't think he's going. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think if anything, there's no way. Like in terms of that core group that we've been hoping will re-sign and hoping to carry the team forward, like your Merritt, your McGrath, obviously we've got Shield and stuff in there now, but all the young kids too, Cox, Perkins, Reed, like Parish is in that top 10 conversation of guys that we're trying to build a team around, not bring in or get rid of to support the team. No way.
Yeah.
The bad. Locke, you want to kick us off?
I'm not sure if it's bad or ugly.
Bad and ugly.
What
was that? We'll call it the bad and ugly, and we'll just reel through them.
Call it the ham. Our defenders' decisions to come forward to the ball, we got caught out. The week before, I think we were lauded for making the right decisions and impacting the play, like that defender that rolls up, it actually impacts. Like Hairpool got caught out, Laverde got caught out a number of times, Callie got caught out. They were so in 2 minds, and I felt like they weren't decisive enough. Like there's one play, I'm sure you've seen the replay of it, where Laverde comes up almost to spoil a marking contest, but ends up about 5 or 10 meters away in no man's land and then tries to run back to Kennedy or Darling, who's free on his own. And it's just the easiest chip kick to a free West Coast player in their forward 50. That happened a lot. And even that time where 3 West Coast players were in the goal square, they could have raffled it to kick the goal. And there was not a single Essendon player that ran back to try to contest it, apart from Laverde, who had got himself out of position in the first place.
Yeah.
So I thought we made very, very poor decisions.
I had in that just how many uncontested marks like Kennedy and Darling took. Like, yeah, you get caught out with like a Cripps or someone else sort of like edging forward and maybe taking one kind of on that 50 parameter. But like we say it every week. Like, you've got guys in the league, like Josh Kennedy's 100 years old, but he's been playing 300 games. He's kicked over 700 goals. Like, as if we're not
3 gold medals.
Yeah, one-on-one, you know? Like we need to either, I understand that we're trying to press our defense up as a way to like lock the ball in. But as I've said, I think we need to sacrifice 1, maybe 2 defenders from that zone who just, you know, if their forwards run up into the play, further up forward, perfect, like let them go, but don't get caught on the other way, you know? Because you have Coleman medalists taking uncontested marks and kicking 5 goals. And he's had a few out there, nothing ones as well. Darling took that mark in the goal square, just like shit like that. It's just like, yeah, we work so hard for our goals. And then you feel like every week the opposition has at least 4 or 5 that's like kicked in the goal square on the goal line, just like no pressure. Yeah.
Do you think that Rudden's like, this is how I want to play, you guys are going to have to adapt to it? And then like week after week, we're seeing like situations where we're just getting caught out massively, but he's just going to stick with it until it clicks for the players? Or do you think we can change and go, hey, we're just going to keep one guy back who is a non-negotiable goalkeeper almost, that a role that Stephen May play sometimes. And then like we just need a forward to run back hard enough or a mid to run back hard enough to create that outnumber?
Yeah, I think our backs just maybe don't understand like overlap run or like passing over opponents properly. And I think that there's too much of, maybe it's Kelly and Ridley and Laverde all moving up. Laverde calls last man back, but then a ball comes into a contest 20 meters ahead. So he guns it, trying to impact it, which like you do want him to do. But I think you need a Jake Kelly or a Ridley to see that he's got, or know that he's going to try and impact that contest. And then you decide you need to drop back to fill the space behind him. Because he's a step off. So a lot of the time he comes into crash or doesn't crash that contest and also misses the ball. So it doesn't actually impact the contest so far as just taking himself 25 meters out of the play that's now gone over his head.
Yeah.
Is it the fact that go Locke.
Do you think that's our wingers maybe sometimes not running back hard enough? Because I know like someone like a Brayshaw for Melbourne will run back so hard and influence a defensive play. Do you think our wingers like maybe a Durham or a Martin are playing just a little bit too attacking? And yeah, they're kicking a goal a week sometimes, but maybe they give up 2 or 3 because they haven't ran back hard enough?
I think we're getting sucked way too far up the field. Like when I see Heppel or Redmond hand passing on our forward 50, like regardless of the result, that makes me nervous. Yeah. And I think it almost should be like, you're not going past the center square at the very most. And if we're getting outnumbered and a team is like flooding like our forward line and it's stagnating like our attack, then maybe we can have a conversation then. But we get sucked into playing this like basketball style of football where it's like you score, I score, you score, I score, you score, I score. And then all of a sudden we stop scoring, but we also keep getting scored against, you know? Yeah. And we're not, you know, we sort of said that we did that last year as well, but winning covers those patches. And last year we were, you know, we were kicking 125 points a game. So it was like, even though the opposition was scoring over 100 points, we were still getting wins. Our percentage was still fine. So I think this year, and it's been getting better, but, you know, look, if we would have been capitalizing on the situation and we'd kicked 20 goals, 10 halfway through the third quarter on Saturday night, then we'll be saying, or Friday night, then we're sitting here saying like, yeah, the defense looks good. because the opposition have stopped running because the game's fucking over at halftime, in my opinion.
Is it the fact that we don't have any experienced generals down back? Like I know Heppel's down sort of a half back, and we don't really sort of rate him that highly, obviously. But you got Laverde, who's sort of in control of the back. I think we still see at the moment. You've got Reed, who's sort of over the last couple of games, he's still pretty new. You've got Kelly, who's first year of the club. Ridley, he hasn't even played 100 games. He played 65 games for the club. Is it the fact that we don't have anyone that's actually a general down back to command everything?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. I think if it's almost something Laverde needs to take on his own shoulders and say, as the
but
number
he's 2 years into being a defender, though. That's the problem.
He's a number one defender. So if the choice
I think that's the problem, though, that he's the number one defender, and he's been a defender for a year and a half now. He hasn't even had 2 seasons as a defender, and we see him as being our number one defender. I think that's a problem.
We've got plenty of problems, mate. This is the bad one.
Yeah.
Hopefully McGrath will be that general down back. And although he's not going to be that massive defender that maybe Reed will be, or Laverde has to play on those sort of monster forwards, but hopefully he can direct and he can make the right decisions and prove that he's a leader in that position and really shore up the defense.
I agree. That's what we saw last time against the Saints, I think.
Well, like we always say, Hodge wasn't the biggest bloke in Hawthorn's back six. You don't need to physically be the biggest bloke, and a lot of the time it is small or medium forwards that are the ones that are killing us out the back. It is like your Riolis or your Liam Ryans, like those kind of guys who, I would back McGrath to, one-on-one, if he's able to wrestle that with those guys, he beats them, Last week it was Higgins, right? It's those kind of players. If they're the ones getting back, then I reckon McGrath wins that, 8 or 9 times out of 10, that contest, or it leaves halves it long enough for the rest of the defense to get back. He's very rarely getting completely out, beaten out by someone his own size. But if he's the last man back because he's taking that role and he's playing on Hawkins or Revolt, it's a different story.
Yeah. We saw that there was a contest against Higgins in the St Kilda game where he was the last man back, looked horribly out of position, and then took a mark over Higgins, and it was like, oh, you just saved a certain goal. So we definitely need more of him playing that quality football. Yeah.
100%.
Well, you look at what Barris did to us in the last quarter, especially. I reckon he must have taken 6 or 7 intercept marks on a guy that has 25 centimeters on him and 10 kilos, And you talk about guys that might be on the fringe that maybe might be gettable. The game he played on the weekend, I was thinking that this is kind of what we're missing. Would you look at someone like a Barras?
Yeah. I think he's a very good defender. I don't think he's gettable, unfortunately.
Yeah. Who knows with West Coast at the moment?
Yeah, I guess it depends how hard they want to try the rebuild. If they are willing to trade out some players at season's end to move themselves up the draft, then maybe you can get a quality player for cheap, comparative to normal.
Yeah. Yes, Russ, agree?
Yeah, I very much agree.
I've got some ugly hairs, boys, some specific bits of play. Hines, hospital pass from the back pocket, supposedly to Merritt, who was still inside defensive 50, just popped it up, Dyson Heppel style. Cripps takes the mark, kicks the goal. I think puts him in front from that one. Speaking of Merritt, here's bung handball in the goal square to Liam Ryan on the goal.
I had one too. Every single possession from Dyson Heppel.
I actually didn't think Heppel. I thought he did some good things.
He did some fucking shit things as well, though.
I'm happy to rag on him, but at the same time, when he does some good things, I think it's important.
Sorry, what did list through the things he did good?
He had a couple of good punches. He had a couple of putting himself back in the hole. He played. I reckon it was one of his better games. One of his better.
He has it. The way that he kicks, though, it's for someone who's experienced as he is, he still has a floating kick up in the air. Like, I think 90% of his balls are hospital balls. Like, learn how to kick, mate. Like,
We might be kicking on that fractured foot still, mate.
yeah, you might be slow. I'll forgive you for that. But there's no excuse for just popping it up in the air and trying to switch it over. Like, I'm sick of it. I'm fucking sick of it.
Not to look too far forward, but surely he doesn't get a game next year. Like,
Surely.
McGrath's playing but down back. You've got Reed maturing. You've got Massimo maybe coming in and playing that
Yeah.
defender who can use the ball out of the back half.
Yeah.
Like, how do we fit him into the side?
If
Speaking
he
of-
says that he's a Bombers man, like he says he is, like he loves the club and all that stuff, you do not push for a contract next year. Like, if you love the club as you say you are, put the swords down and walk away.
Do you reckon he gets another contract?
If he wants it, they'll give it to him, 100%.
1 year?
Because they'll give him a year, they'll give him 2 years.
I don't think they'll give him 2.
If he asks for it, he's 29 years old. Like, they'll
He's
give him 2
30.
years.
He's 30 now, isn't he?
He's 30 now? Okay. They'll still give him probably 2 years. They'll probably at least give him a year, though, out of sympathy. But he needs to man up and go, okay, I love the Essendon Football Club. I'm fucking walking away. Because the club has to be like, oh, we'll give him something.
I think he doesn't get a contract, and I think Hurley doesn't get a contract either. And the other one,
There's no way Hurley's contract. No way.
I don't know why Hurley didn't just like hang it up before the mid-season.
Yeah, exactly. Bro, I've been saying since the preseason. Same
Um,
thing.
one other one, Locke, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts. Do you give Cutler another contract for 1 more year?
Look, there's always players that are going to get a year's contract because you need depth and you need role players that aren't in your best 22, but can come in and play semi-decent football that are experienced. So we're talking about guys like Cutler and Ham and like giving Dyson Heppel another year, and like there's always going to be those players. Phillip, even I know that hurts your ears, Benny. But giving one year contract there'll always be players that you need to play that role.
Yeah. Do you give Guelphy more than 1 year at the end of this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He's deserved a 2 to 3 year after what he's done this year. You know, I 100% agree with what Locke said then. Like, Cutler, you need that sort of depth. He's a depth player. You know, he can stand up within an AFL system, and where, you know, I'm happy to have him in the system if he's a depth player. But Guelph is more than a depth player. He's cemented himself into that best 22. So if you cement yourself into a best 22, you at least get 2 years, if not 3.
Yeah. And he kicks goals, and so you guys put him both there for Durham. So if Durham's playing, Guelphy's definitely playing.
I'd give him a 2-year contract. I reckon he's had a breakout season.
Just 2? You wouldn't? Just 2?
I don't
2 to 3.
like giving a player like that a longer contract.
Okay. Interesting. How about the boys, the Eagles being unable to be pinned for holding the ball in the fourth quarter? I reckon I probably counted 8 or 9 in the last 10 minutes that should have been so clearly holding the ball that we just let play on.
If we're going to go into how bad the umpires are, we need a second podcast.
We will have a spin-off podcast where all we do is show footage of review of like bad calls against Essendon.
Yeah, it might be a 3-hour fucking podcast.
At the end of the day, I like the idea of them putting the whistle away more often, but the out-and-out howlers, you always want to remove that from the game. And you see it in every game, unfortunately. Like, the umpire's either in the wrong position to make the right decision, or they are seeing something different to what we see. And unfortunately, that'll always be the case. But I'd rather less decisions be paid rather than more. I'd rather be talking about a few missed calls rather than, they paid 20 free kicks in a quarter or something.
Yeah, I think the context of the situation is important though. And though it's almost like if say someone lays a tackle, ball spills out, you probably could pay holding the ball, but like the tackling team recover the ball anyway, you probably like, you probably call advantage there anyway. So like you got the ball go on. But when the opposite happens, and there was a few times we're really pressing to kick some late goals, quite late into the quarter, get us back in the game. There was one or two on our forward flank that like weren't paid that then West Coast recover. It's like those ones are important to call because that's potentially an outcome changer on the game, right? So there's a few of those that did me in. And my last ugly is like, we don't have anything cool. You know what I mean? Like when West Coast win, they have Birds of Tokyo doing like their song, or like you go to Port Adelaide and they have like Never Tear Us Apart. Like we don't have any of that shit. I want something like on that thing that's.
We've got the bomb rain siren.
Do we? The air raid siren?
Yeah, air raid siren.
Well, I want it to be a celebrity that's making the noise with their mouth. That's what I want.
We've got like an air raid siren supposed to put fear into people around it. So, but I hear it. Yeah, you're right. We've got the jacket.
The scarf waving.
That's the shitty jacket.
Yeah.
But we haven't had anything to celebrate for a long time to wave the jacket.
Boys, let me ask you this. Would you take Degoe?
No.
No.
Okay. This is why. I think we have such a fragile culture at the club at the moment that we've spoken about this before, that if we were to pick up players at the off season, we need to pick up leadership. We need to pick up people with standards. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be nice to have Degoe in the system, but I feel like if we're trying to pick up mature age people, we've spoken about that we need to be leadership people. I need people to bring standards to the club. I don't see that through Degoe. I don't see standards bringing. I don't see leadership bringing. I know there's a lot of work with sort of outside the footy club with sort of philanthropy and all that kind of stuff. But we have no kind of standards at the club at the moment. That's how I see it. And we don't have any kind of leadership. So to spend the kind of money that we're going to have to get to Degoe, I'd rather spend it in getting 5 other players that have standards and leadership rather than paying one bloke that could win a game every 4 games.
I agree with that. I also think we've got more important roles to fill, whether that is a key defender, whether that's a game-winning forward, or if we were going to pick up a midfielder, then I would want, as Russ just mentioned, someone with very high standards, leadership capabilities, and even like a defensive-minded mid, like, I don't know, a two-way runner that's throws himself down to the back line when it's needed and runs their guts out rather than just burst forward out of a stoppage and occasionally kicks a goal.
I'd rather a Brayshaw.
We've got that player. He's called Stringer.
I'd rather like a nice Brayshaw or something, and I'm paying him a little bit less, but I have to put the farm at him to get him over to the club. Then go for Degoe. Oh, look, don't get me wrong, Ben. If Degoe is like, hey, boys, I want to come over and play for you guys, I'll take $500K a year or $600K a year or $700K a year. Yeah, come around. But we're going to have to throw $1 million plus, and we're going to have to throw the farm at him at Collingwood to let him go.
I don't think whoever gets him is going to have to throw the farm at him at all. And I think that, if Collingwood say we're not re-signing him, then it would be interesting to see if we could take him with certain, I think he'll stay, but with certain parameters in his contract surrounding, the stuff that the club's seeing, sick of seeing pop up, then look, Stringer wasn't a fucking great role model or culture player when he came across the Dogs, and he's been a fucking godsend. Like, I kind of see it as another one of those situations.
I don't see him being a godsend though. Like Stringer's he's won a few games for us, but he's not on crazy money though. He's on $500K a year. Like, we signed him on a lot. Like, we held out because we said he wants a long contract versus money, and we're happy to pay you less money for less of the contract. And so Stringer's on less than $500K a year or $550 or something. No. There's people that are willing to pay Degoe $1 million a year The word on the street is there's 3 clubs willing to spend more than $1 million on him. You know, was it North Melbourne offered him $1 million 3 years ago, a year?
Ages ago. But North were throwing $1 million at anyone that was up for fucking gets at that point.
So I guess that's the thing is that I'm happy to have the goalie if we're paying $500,000 a year and he's just a player, but I'm not going after him.
The fact that he didn't go to North Melbourne for $1 million a year when he was like 23, to me shows that he actually does have standards.
Okay, with everything that's happened since that, does he have standards though? What's more important though?
So at what point though are you like his on-field standards and his work on his ability? And like for me, it's like that's what you're paying for. Like, you need to have a chat about the other stuff that goes on off field, but ultimately, like, I think if he came to the SN, I'd be fucking stoked. Can you imagine every centre bounce with either a stringer or a DeGoey attending the second, with the other one up forward as a target? Like,
okay, when he's going out after the game, does he bring 3 other players with him for what he's doing? You know, when he's in the media like he is with, you know, the 7 things that's happened since that $1 million offer that's come out there. You know, when the club goes, oh, okay, I've got to defend him for this, that the standards come down.
What if we win a flag, is it worth it?
If we win a flag, I would take a whole field of goalies.
Yeah, exactly right.
Has he won a flag for that club for Collingwood yet?
It's gotten him pretty close.
Yeah, but he didn't win. They didn't win.
I'd take winning a final at the moment as just on par. Do you think he's the difference last year between us finishing 8th and potentially fucking winning a final?
I don't think he wins a flag, no.
A final.
If he wins I don't care about a final. I care about a flag. Like, who cares about winning one extra final? Like, it's a flag.
I think if he had have been playing in that Western Bulldogs game where we lost by 40-odd points, he's not the difference between us winning and losing.
Yeah. I don't see him winning a flag for us.
With the condition and the form that String was in last year, if he'd had someone to go along with him on that ride, we might have finished 6th instead of 8th. We might have played a GWS in a final.
No, to go back to Lockie's point though, like, he's not a key forward, he's not a key back. I would rather spend the money on those 2 positions that could win, that would get us over the line more often than others, than go all after DeGoey and have a second stringer in the team.
The difference is the hypothetical players that you guys are talking about that you want. It's like, yeah, every club wants that. And that's why those guys don't come out of contract, you know, until they're 32 or 33.
Yeah.
And
that's where we either have to get extremely lucky or we need to go to the draft and unfortunately just keep working with younger talent and trying to develop them.
I don't think even if we get pick 3 this year, and we've had this conversation a few times now, but like taking pick 3 in the draft does not, like, it exacerbates the issues we have with leadership and standards and experience. It doesn't, you know, like fix them or address them.
Also, again, DeGoey doesn't fix them either.
I don't think DeGoey is the answer.
I don't think you're bringing in DeGoey specifically for those problems, but he's still.
No, but that's what we need, though. We're not saying he's going to bring them. That's what we need. So putting the kind of investment that you're going to get DeGoey into your club isn't the right answer for us.
All right, it's your opinion. It's wrong, but it's your opinion. You're entitled to it. All right, very quickly, lads, before we finish up here and the time runs out, the VFLW girls are through to the grand final where they will take on St Kilda, which is one of the teams that we drew with during the season. So going to be a pretty decent final. I think it's this weekend, isn't it?
Yep.
So seeing as we're playing on a Sunday.
Playing Saturday.
Sydney. Are we playing on Saturday or Sunday against Sydney?
Saturday afternoon.
Saturday.
All right, we might have to get around for that one as well and watch the Bombers win a flag just to hear the song.
Yep, very nice.
Lovely. All right, boys, thank you very much.
See you lads.
Good pod, guys. Go Bombers.
Thursday night for the teams.
Yep.
Sounds good. Get Bombers.
Good on.
So us.